Okay, we're recording. Nihal, I don't know. I mean, maybe you've seen it in the past message. We're trying to hold up the fingers to reach the total of the office hours that we've got. So taking some coordination right off the start. We're at office hours 11. So can we get what do we got? Vatzel, you're better at math. We've got 222.
Two,
Yeah.
two, two.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Office hours 11. This is a session, a little jam session that we get together usually every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but today is a Thursday. There's an Easter holiday weekend. Everyone's got the day off tomorrow. Oh, was that 10?
That was only 10.
Oh no! Gosh. Well, we're good at programming and building stuff, but sometimes math falls through. I will not Photoshop another finger in, but we hit 11 in our mind, and that's really what matters. So office
Okay.
hours 11. One thing we've noticed, Vatzel brought this up, is that we don't really do. We sometimes just hop right into conversations, and in this case, we actually have a fully new person in this conversation, which is wonderful. And so maybe let's go real quick. Tim, I'm looking at you. A quick introduction of who you are, and I guess the role at Speak AI. So I'll just start quickly to set the precedent. I'm Tyler Bryden, one of the original creators of Speak AI, and really, I used to be a one-man marketing show as well as doing some product management. We now have someone helping us in product management, and then also someone helping us in marketing here. So very exciting time for me, as some of these things that were all under my plate are starting to diversify and have great people actually do those roles. That's all I got to say. So Nihal, I'm going to put you on the spot. Number 2, say hello, a little intro, what you're thinking on your side.
Sure. Hey, I'm Nihal, the new marketer, strategist, whatever you want to call me. It's exciting to be a part of the Speak team, Speak family. Everyone here is super intelligent. Great conversations have already happened in my, 1 week of being integrated into this team. And yeah, I'm just excited to see how we can make, the speak, right? Yeah. So excited for that, and excited to work with everyone here, and also, meet people in the voice tech community, meet people in this space, and kind of just grow our branding as well.
Beautiful. Timothy.
Wonderful. Very much excited to have Nihal now in our team. Timothy Fawston. I'm a software developer here at Speak AI, and we're making Speak. And we're looking out into the future and hoping to bring some of that into reality. It's a very short and brief, but over to Vatzel.
Great job, Tim.
Wow. Okay, perfect, Timothy. Welcome to Nihal, to Speak AI family. It's very excited to have you on the first office hour with you. And my name is Vatzel Sain. I'm CTO at Speak AI, and my role here from December 2018 is to build, develop, test, deploy all the roles, all the software engineering roles from day one. So I'm very excited to have and see the future of Speak AI. Lauren.
Hey, I'm Lauren. I do accounting and miscellaneous work here. Lots of fun stuff. Started back in May 2019, and very excited to have Nihal here. He's very smart, very well. What's the word I'm looking for? Well spoken, unlike me.
That's not true. Don't say that about yourself. Oh. We are missing one wonderful person who has joined us in a smaller capacity, but we're very excited about, which is Leon, who brings years of UX research experience to our team and has been putting us through the gauntlet of questions this week. I think everyone on the team, yes. I think Nihal, you're the only one left who has to go through his questions. What I love beautifully, what he did, I guess not to spoil his process or anything, but I'm about to, is the Simon Sinek, why, how, what. And, really him asking a series of questions about product design and how you think about that, and then guiding you towards the end of this little interactive moment where you're starting to think of why are we building Speak? How are we doing it, and what is it? And that's a very powerful exercise. And no matter how many times you revisit, you can always have this core mission at the start, and I think that's really powerful when you do it. But as you get more information, things change. You're always going to have this drive. But very interesting activity. I said earlier today, my eyes were closed for about 35 minutes of the 45 minutes, which means that my brain was working very hard, and it was a lot harder than I thought. So maybe just quickly a reflection on that activity from anyone who's actually done it yet. Any thoughts?
I would imagine, by the way, wouldn't he not join us?
He'll join us for office hours. Not coming here today, but he will. I'm sure
Okay.
he'll going to join us in the future, and probably with some pretty good insights and talk about an eloquent speaker. That's a great person to be able to just listen to.
With the interview, I just had an interview yesterday, and Vatsal and Tyler also had it. Where well, I can probably speak for everyone here. It was a very insightful. He had very insightful questions to ask us, and with his experience with UI UX beforehand, it seems like he's going to be driving Speak AI into the right direction as our I would say PM, product manager. He would be he is already a great asset, and it's been only a pleasure to have deviated from the main course of thought with him on talking about sustainability and just almost everything. Great person, great skill.
Lauren, you're off mute there. Anything to say?
Tara, you were quite on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just Lauren's off mute, so it looked like he had maybe something to say. I think he went through the interview.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I went through the interview. It was pretty cool. It was a fun little exercise at the end to talk about the thought of like the soul of the brand and all this, how that relates to like the body of the actual product that we're delivering here. So it was pretty good. I wish it was longer, to be honest. But I guess we all have to make the most of the time that's there. Yeah, really excited to see what he does after that. It was mostly just like an interview process. It was just a lot of questions, and yeah, I was hoping that he would talk more than I would.
That's all. Anything?
I agree. That is like he started into the. I'm not going to talk about the process, but like one of the activity was a very insightful where we already Tyler and Lauren, you'd all talk about the process. But the one thing I also find insightful is like when you work in a team, the definition varies a lot. So for example, success means to the marketing team, with engineering team to the accounting team varies a lot, and what is that middle ground looks like, right? And I mean that is nothing wrong to have the different definitions that can be of anything, what terms of what is the product looks like, because the user, what we see at Speak AI, the market we also is vary from many different segments. That can be the API business, or that can be the front end user end-to-end business of the subscription. So I mean, yes, the questions are of course very insightful, but I'm more interested about the insight or the output of the whole process. I talk also into the one of the call, but I'm watching a series called Dr. Bull, and the reason behind that, what he do is like he basically do the science trial, the trial behind the human psychology, and combining with the science is like how we talk, how we behave, the language, the emotions, the sentiment. It's pretty insightful with the science and technology, and the lens to look at and come up with some output. It's very interesting. So the whole practice was very insightful.
Beautiful. Yeah, and a very active listener. You could see the intensity on, at least for me, I was like looking at Leon's face of how intensely he was listening. So a process, in my ideal world, we actually record those and he actually synthesizes that information with Speak, but he's got his own process, and I will make sure that we adhere to that. I also want to take a second. So that was Leon, who is helping us out a lot and has already made an impact. And but I also want to take a moment to welcome Nihal, who's joining the team. Again, a role that is much needed, very exciting. We focused a lot on the development of Speak, and very technology-driven, innovation-driven company. But sometimes that disconnects us from some of the customers that we're talking to, prospective customers, and then actually separates it from the strategy that we have to, for example, take a feature or solution and then actually deploy it live and then amplify it and get the reach and the users and the testing that we actually want. So not to put too much pressure on Nihal, but I like that he calls himself a performance marketer. And I think he's got a really good technological understanding and then also a foundational product that, if done right, that it should be not easy to market, but has the impact to help change a lot of people's lives. And I think we can have some success here, and we're already working on that. So, maybe I don't know if you have just what I'd love to maybe again revisit. You did a little intro already, but maybe talk a little bit about some of the past experience, whether it's the PR, the last firm that you worked for, and then how that's maybe informing your entrance into Speak. And then I'd also say, yeah, even just first thoughts. This is a very public forum. Like, what do we need to improve here at Speak that we'd love to communicate here? Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Well, I guess my background's a bit all over the place because, like we've discussed previously, kind of started my journey in education through like my nutrition degree. Had the grand vision of one day becoming a doctor. Every parent's dream. But then over time, I kind of decided that my passions kind of lay more in the communication and taking complex topics and simplifying it for a general audience, which kind of led me down the path to the PR, public, like corporate communications and public relations, which I did at Seneca. And once again, had a stint at an agency. People there were great, really smart, but the goals just didn't really align with what I wanted to do. And past that point, I'd kind of hit a crossroads in my life where I'm like, what is a field that is quite scalable from like a professional and personal perspective, where I could, take this skill set anywhere really in the world and potentially apply it. And, that kind of led me towards digital marketing and content creation, that sort of thing. So ended up working for about a year and 16 months at a car dealership group in Ontario. Helped them with everything from like SEO to some performance marketing, some advertising, and a lot of account management as well. Working with the different dealerships, different brands, and trying to bring their visions to life. And yeah, I mean, over time, I'd always wanted to try my hand at the tech scene and get involved, in tech as as a very general term. And I just happened to come across your posting. The team, that small team energy, small team vibes is definitely something that I think I've been craving for a while. Because once again, just from our short time together, it's been very engaged. Very much about a unified vision and doing whatever we can as a team to achieve that unified vision, which is fantastic. And it really excites me for what we can all achieve together. Sorry, and what was the other parts of
I guess so the last do you have a moment to sit and roast Speak coming in with a good marketing experience and seeing everything that's what are we doing wrong? Tell us what you're going to attack first.
Well, so one thing I know, for instance, one thing we're trying to work on is building a foothold for ourselves within the industry, within the space, and seeing how we provide value to customers in a way that our competitors or other platforms aren't quite providing. And like we discussed this as well, but what you said really resonated with me, where it's like, it's not about just getting every and all the customers we can get, right? At the end of the day, it's about making sure that our customers find the product that's right for them. And sometimes even if that involves us being like, sorry, like we're not really the best fit for you, but here are some alternatives, right? Like I really like that approach. One thing I know we discussed during our team retreat was the implementation of like better documentation, to kind of help with the general onboarding process, even for people not with specific to different departments, because especially being in marketing and trying to amplify the great work that our engineering team is doing, or other stories that might come through Speak, I think we kind of need better documentation that can be potentially converted into content, for instance, right? So like I know today we were talking about guides as well, right? So maybe there's something that comes out from Tim and Wetzel that ends up being, like a thought leadership piece that we can also use to amplify their personal brands, but also amplify the Speak brand as a whole, right? Like we hire great, we hire smart people, and these smart people can help you solve the problems you have, right? And a final one I think is just general, like, and that's why Leon's here, like some elements of like UX and UI, and I believe even within the product itself, just a slightly more fleshed out onboarding process that kind of helps people understand better what we're trying to do for them.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
No, hey, you didn't even roast us too much. I appreciate that. I saw, a couple of things. One thing you talked about, you said you saw an Instagram ad that, just was like lacking content. It still hurts my soul to know that that's just out there floating somewhere. And then today, as I was sort of perusing through content on the site, like that's why I saw a page about Zapier. I'm still confused about the actual pronunciation, but it says it's coming soon. I'm like, this is not coming soon. This has been live. So there's things that as you're, especially as you're managing clients, marketing, all this stuff at once that fall through the cracks, and starting to, again, always about talking about prioritizing the efforts, but making sure that things like that don't fall through the cracks, and that there's a little bit more of a standard operating procedure around it. And we've got another perspective coming in and saying, come on, Tyler, come on. Or, that's really exciting. I'll just add two other parts, maybe actually only one part, but I love one of the things that really stuck out when we met was you talking about taking complex topics and distilling them down into what can be accessible. And some of the stuff that we're doing is relatively complex. Some of it has been very complex for me, and we're lucky to have people like Wetzel and Tim who understand the technical inner workings of these systems, but not everyone does. And so there's the idea of what we've talked about is also democratizing technology for people. And that's both in the function of Speak AI, which is, you can, without knowing how to code or use APIs or crazy technical solutions, you can actually get access to artificial intelligence that the biggest companies, the biggest tech, teams and developers are actually using. But then it's also democratizing the understanding of it. And by helping inform people and educate people on what we're doing, why it's important, how the system works, and actually removing some of the black box, it really does put us in an amazing position of trust. And that's something that we look forward to a lot. And I'm excited to have a talented writer who can take these complex subjects and actually distill it down. So welcome, Nihal. We're happy to have you here. Right? It's very, very grateful to have you here. You mentioned nicely, just allows our segue to come through, was we did a team retreat and get together on the weekend. And this is, I actually really like this. This was Tim, he said, let's do this every quarter, because we did an end of year get together at the end of last year. And he said, let's continue to do this every quarter. And it just brings, as we all are remote right now, we're all digital, it brings us back together, allows us to connect in a different way. And I really enjoyed that time with all of you, and to have Nihal and Leon there. It felt like our team had multiplied very many times over, even though it's only two people. But when you're small and it's been such a tight family for a while, that's a big addition. So any thoughts, I guess, right off the top from anyone here about the retreat, about the get together? And then we can also start to talk a little bit maybe about the OKRs and, looking back at the last quarter, but then also looking forward to the next quarter.
Sure, I'll jump in.
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to complain about or it's like talk about how everything is working from home, but even to see people under the same roof has like sort of a different energy. I felt after almost a year or more than a year, right? Last time we were at DMZ was around in the February, and like meeting people under the same roof have always been a different energy, and it's like the discussion we have, we go through many different sort of equations, from building a brand or engineering development or the marketing, And also I would appreciate Nihal and Leon, both of them, to asking the great questions related to understand about what we do, how we do, and why we do. That's more important. And yeah, these are the thoughts top of my mind, and I'll let.
Yeah. I remember after Nihal and Leon left, we hung out and just did some fun stuff after, played some cards and stuff. But like, I was like, my mind is tired.
Yeah.
I felt like I had pushed the limit from all the great questions that Nihal and then Leon had actually asked us. And again, very intense work that now it is, more execution time, which is exciting. So yeah, anything else, Tim, anything you're thinking?
I've yeah, that was a great time last Christmas, and that really moved us to actually do that again this quarter. And for sure, I can't agree more with that. The vibe that we generate, all of us together, is something that it's memorable. It's a beautiful time together, and we've maybe this is showing off, but we had generated a couple of crazy ideas, and maybe even considered boot camping at some issue to hack it together. But that's I hope that it'll come along next or it'll come along on outside of OKR meetings, but it's the place where you go out of your way with all the people around you, because they are also doing the same, and that's the general just energy of creation, I should say. Yeah, also the French toasts that Tyler made they're delicious. I can. That's something. Good memory.
I'm still doing push-ups trying to get those.
Oh yeah.
Get those out. Oh, I saw Lauren. I said, Lauren, do you want some French toast? He said, yeah, four pieces. I'm like, Lauren, are you gonna be okay?
It's not that bad. I could have asked
But
for more, to be honest.
I know. I know it was so good. Lauren, any thoughts from the OKR
Oh,
session?
it was lots of fun. Yeah, it was. I'm definitely down for doing this quarterly. It's especially like next time around, we should probably be a bit more focused on nature. The last two have been too cold, I guess, to really go excursioning in the in nature. So yeah, my birthday's actually end of next quarter too. So you guys can get me gifts.
All you need to
That's
say, buddy.
perfect. Yeah,
All you
exactly.
need to say. Okay.
I'll be there.
And I'll just add quickly that was, I think, a great element that we did. We did a little review on screen on Sunday after, because Tim and Lauren stayed over, but with the actual main get together, we didn't use screens at all. So much more just organic conversation,
Yes.
blanket on the floor. Love it. Love that stuff, and so that part was great. Later we broke out the projector and all the other good stuff, but that was a ton of fun. And I love that element that we just decided that wasn't necessary. And I even said to later, that's on the night, I was like, I don't know where my phone is right now. I hadn't known for 4 hours. And also shout out, I love to Spotify for accompanying us with beautiful music throughout the entire time. Just 1 p.m. all the way through. Didn't need the phone, didn't need to monitor anything like that. That was wonderful. So Nihal, you came in, pretty, I'd hate using the word raw, but just came in right away into, a pretty intense planning session, both in person and then also on Tuesday here with which OKRs, which really are almost like things that force you to have to look at yourself and any of your goals. And, we've always experienced that of like putting something on the board and then being like, no, that's I shouldn't say bullshit, but that's bullshit, Tyler or Lauren or whatever it is. Like, you didn't structure that right. It doesn't fit in a template. So just any thoughts about the process, the difficulty of it, any other things that as you reflect back on the weekend and then the planning of this actual quarter here?
So I think the number one thing from the OKR session that was interesting to see, because I've never worked with a system like that before. It's very much been, you'd have your strategy meetings, but they never actually had any defined outcomes, defined goals from any of the strategy meetings that I've had in the past. So it was interesting to see how everyone kind of came to their own conclusions of what was important, and then seeing how as a team, with some friction, like it came to consensus on what would be the important things for us to focus on for the next quarter and beyond, right? Depending, because for instance, some of the OKRs that we'd set, I know, for instance, even though they're quarterly goals, like some of them were pretty much almost there at the start of the quarter, right? So taking a look at that, keeping them in there, but then, being open to the idea of potentially revising them if the need comes up. For instance, I really appreciated, and I'm guessing it was Wetzel by any chance the main proponent of using OKRs?
Yes.
Because I feel like it kind of showed in that meeting, for instance, where he was really good at telling us, like, it's great that you put this down, but then, like, what's the why, like what's the what's like the desired outcome. And I think that really helped us zone in on what we're actually trying to achieve, because sometimes it's easy to end up with really lofty goals that don't really have a predetermined desired outcome. And I think Vassal really did a good job of bringing us around to being like, okay, like you want to improve this, but by how much, right? What does that look like? How do we get there? And I think that was great. It was really exciting to see all the moving parts we have going on, and all the things, on the side of like funding, contracts, all the parts of a small business, small medium size business that I otherwise wouldn't see, right? Like the second you go into like a larger enterprise, you're pretty much like there's this ceiling, right? Where your knowledge of what's going on is very limited. Until you obviously get to a certain level in the hierarchy. And it was really nice to kind of see the democratic way that we approached issues that we all determined were important. So yeah, man, overall it was definitely a cool experience. And I'm excited to see how our OKRs look by the end of this quarter.
That's it. Yeah. And it's a very, and Vatzel was I remember Vatzel when he first mentioned that to me, I got Measure What Matters book by John Dewar, devoured the audiobook. I should say the audiobook. And what was something that was very, made very apparent, and that was how difficult it is to implement OKRs, even from like the top performing organizations in the world, and how they would have to come back and revisit months and years to try to actually get it right. And I think even in the interview you saw or in that one call, it's like some tension of doing it. It's like, does this work? And it's like, it does work. It's like that, the part that we actually force each other to do it does it. And it, also, not to get to the woo-woo part, but there's this idea of just like manifestation, which is just put it down, have aspirational goals, but if you define the timeline, if you define what you're actually achieving, it builds it into your brain, it builds it into your actions, and you move in that direction with everything you do. So it's this beautiful process in that regards.
Yep, I agree. And it's like, I won't take the credit, but because I was in the previous, that was the part-time job, but it was software engineering job. But they give it as a Christmas gift for this book. And that was very interesting. And it's like, I go through the chapter, and that's the time I and Tyler met around the December time, mid of the December. So, but it helped me a lot, even if I talk about my personal self. Like I use it's whatmatters.com, and they have the same structure from the same author. Is like they build the platform to manage the whole OKR. And also it's like it's like too objective. I'm not going to take much time, but it's more about when you set the objective, that is more about what is that objective looks like. And when you set the key result, it's more about how. And if you miss the quantity or the quality, one of the thing, then the OKR is not set properly in terms of, yes, you will get things done, but there are two ways. So once you see some constraints or some things are not working, then you will go back and see why those things are not working. So that help a lot. And also Tyler, you might be agree that, but we also learn and change the structure, the way we want to accomplish the goals a lot, even through the same practice. The base is always be the OKR, but we change, we assign a person who is responsible for that. We assign the deadlines, we assign the checklist to make sure that we don't miss anything that can be on any department from any department. So yeah, we iterate a lot through the process in last almost 2 years now.
Lauren, anything else to add before we move on? Any other thoughts?
No, I'm pretty happy. Just like looking back on the OKRs that we finished up with, like this one, and like looking back like last quarter, and like even like last year's OKRs, it was just a huge mess. And I'm really happy with how organized and how like comfortable everybody's getting with OKRs now. And yeah, let's keep at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've said this in our own group, but just there was, when we first got to the DMZ, the person who was our guide, helped us plan our first OKRs. And it's like every entrepreneur, every company comes in here, I see them do their first OKRs and they will put 50 things. And they think they're just going to do it all. And then they get to the end of the quarter and they're like, oh my God. And that's what we experienced that first one, which is the sea of red. It was like, oh, this hurts to look at. And now we've gotten much better. Like now, if you look at, I think even comparative, like how long those actual, like how many tasks or key results were in there, and now how it's been distilled down. There's still some length and stuff, and it's still aspirational, but it's much more focused, much more prioritized. And just the idea of like, at one point in my life, there was a part where I would like, focus on how much I was working and how that was like, oh, that means you're giving it all. But as you start to get deeper into life and work, you start to say, if I'm working this much to, like, that means I'm not actually doing things right. It means I'm not actually prioritizing things right. So you start to reframe as you get deeper into work, what is actually truly successful. And that's how I want to look at all of this. Of course, we put the hustle and grind in, and I know Vatsil, Tim, Lauren, like we've done a lot of long weeks and a lot of long days, but at some point you start to get better at what you're doing. And that's the goal here with what we choose to put in the OKRs that make the big impact, and also what we choose every day in the work that we're actually doing. So
yeah, just to add on last thing, Tyler, before we move on, it's like, okay, what one or two things we improve this while building this OKR. So like this time we added the percentage on the engineering OKRs. It's like, okay, we have this many resources, we have this many hours to fulfill these objectives, which is very crystal clear, and that helped us a lot to make sure that we are, I mean, all the features are always be the impactful, but always be the challenge is the prioritization about those features. It's not a thing is like, oh, can we do this or that? It's more about when do we want to prioritize the feature, and we go through the OKRs, and if you remember, we now have like the segment slash sort of the weightage on the features. It's like what is more important with respect to the business on the engineering side. So that is a sort of a new trial. We'll see how does that impact throughout the 3 months, and we'll improve the next OKR, and we'll talk about that. But yes, that is a one thing I just want to give a try. How does that impact on day to day for the next quarter?
Yeah. In general, I think, we're definitely not experts on OKRs, but we've spent a lot of time thinking about it. And the other way we've added is ICE, impact, confidence, and ease, the ability to then prioritize tasks within those key results, especially as new things emerge partway through quarters, or, new engagements comes up and you need to figure out what's going to have the biggest impact here. And then also assigning a lead to that. So that at the end of the quarter, when we're keeping each other accountable, there's not a moment of, I don't know, everyone was doing this, so no one screwed up or no one was successful. It makes it really clear who was responsible for overseeing that and bringing that to a successful completion. So that's been helpful for us. Is both, you think, like Lauren always said to me one day, too many frameworks, Tyler, but the OKR framework and then the ICE has been very helpful. I'm going to share one part that I want to talk about here. There's two things. Actually, I won't spoil the first thing, just because it's up on the screen right now, though, is Tim, some of the work that you've done around the embeddable player. And I'm going to do a screen share, and we can walk around a couple of the updates here. And then I've got an embeddable custom landing page as a sample. So maybe as I'm just getting that ready to share on the screen, if you have any thoughts, or Vatsil, who've actually worked on this, and then the impact of why we put so much work into this embeddable player.
Timothy.
Right. Well, it's a very put me on spot here, but I'm thinking the outcome that we've attempted to, well, rather we will see if we've achieved all or not, was to enable users, everyone who's watching and everyone who uses the platform, to share the media in the most customizable manner possible. And, things that you might want to see on your embeddable player, such as title description, most of people would want to, some wouldn't. We had weird questions to disable indexing of embeddable players. We had several we had some good feedback on how sentiment is supposed to is a large asset, would be as a sentiment would be a large asset to these embeddable players. And lastly, I would say that something that comes from just the process of development, and which I would attribute a lot to Vatsal's imperative opinions about how to lead the development process. We've iterated on Transcript too, and we've merged a couple of ideas from other products into this Transcript, so it became a bit better. And that's a little overview of what was done to it. Tyler, you'd be maybe more precise about what are the exact use cases.
That's perfect, Timothy. Just add meanwhile, you said a screen, Tyler. But all this feedback and the new changes we had done, it's everything are from our users. I mean, initially when we created the embed, a couple of things as like what web elements, like why that is important. But now all these new changes are on the request from all our users. So that's a great sign about because they will see from their own request that these new changes are deployed live and they're going to use it. And to just give a little brief about what are those changes are, it's like the whole new, when you share your audio and video, that's a whole new experience through the platform to decide or make a decisions like what do you want to share. So yeah, it is.
So this is, I guess we'll just talk quickly about, I mean, some of this stuff is a little bit more technical, but is really interesting in the regards, which is one of the ones that Tim talked about is the idea of SEO indexing. So this is like what we had was some companies and organizations and customers who actually wanted to make content public, but only to people who had actually signed up or registered for example, their website or course or things like that. So then there was a lot of other video sort of analysis, video hosting or management solutions that didn't necessarily, it sort of had like password protected or sort of public. And then those were the only two options we had. But what we did was add this SEO indexing part, which is if I uncheck this, now it allows me to post this publicly, so it's not password protected, but it's not going to get indexed by search engines, which, for someone doing, a private course that's valuable that they've already put password in, you don't want to make them redo passwords, but you don't want it to start showing up on search engines because it's valuable to the actual organization. The other parts that we were managing there were like, how do we better allow people to select what insights to display? And so in this case, we display, as insights get more and more populated, we start to add more custom categories or more default categories. It allows you to define what you actually want to display. And then lastly, the idea is like call to action buttons and then actually managing background images and logos and things. So, this is just a sample video, and I know it's quite green, so I apologize on that. But the idea at the core level was like, how can we give people to interact with media the way that they want, to find the information that they need and jump to those exact moments without wasting time. There's so much media is created, so much is generated every day. And we've had multiple people say, even as an employee in a company, we are told that we're supposed to watch this video or listen to this podcast or whatever it is. And we see this opportunity to reduce that weight or that lift by actually building out the technology like this, transcribing, analyzing, and then building out some custom categories. I'll just give one example here. Working with a very multi-talented and diverse team that's having a lot of calls. But what's been very fascinating is we can put a custom category, which is team members of that team. And now anytime that that team member is mentioned, it actually shows specifically in an insight category, and they can see every time their name is mentioned. So not only does it allow the end user to then navigate to the parts that are relevant to them, it actually, if you know that that mechanism in place as a user, you can start to use what you're saying as a control mechanism. So now I can say, June. June is the girl's name. I don't know why I said June. That could have been confusing. But June, and once you say that, you know that that's going to be an instance put within the Speak Embeddable player that then June will be able to know that is relevant to her. So there's natural flow of conversation that emerges, but then there's also direct ability to actually make that actually happen by saying what you're saying. And then some of the stuff that we've seen before is the clicking and navigating around. We have some things to clean up here, but we're starting to give people the ability to actually now engage with media in different ways through visualizations. And even the layer that we've added as well is the sentiment analysis piece. So still, more work on all of this and still deploying and debugging and making things, but very excited to start to give people in a very democratized way access to media that uses some of the most advanced technology, but give it and present it in a way that's interactive, that's engaging, and actually helps you navigate through media. So anyone have anything to add to that before I stop the screen share?
Just last thing, we added a more meta tags for the people who are interested into the SEO selling. So that is very interesting. So now even if you share on the Twitter, LinkedIn, any website, so now you can have more specific player as a video player with the title, description, and from whose account this video is shared. So it's like to help this player also on the indexing side, but more meta details for the end user. So that is very, very interesting. We just had done in this new update.
That was a lot of work. And very, very, very nice to actually see come together. Like there's a lot of people sharing media, sharing content across the web that's not necessarily displayed in a way that's engaging or interactive or personalized. And so that's been a big jump with this update that I think has been exciting for us all. So, and yeah, as you talked about, huge SEO ranking accessibility benefits to that. So lots of great things coming together there. Tim, any last thing as some of the engineering behind that, or any other thoughts that you have on this before we move to the last topic for today? Nope.
I wouldn't say. The only part that I'm still curious about is the branding part, and how would we we want analytics about how users share these links and how do they interact with these embeddable players. Because as soon as we do know, we'd be able to develop the ability to share particular insights, particular pieces of information that you found in that embeddable player. So my prompt here is, let us know which social networks you use and where do you share these embeddable players.
I like it, Tim. Okay. I'll add then, that we'll group that, and we're going to come revisit this because the embeddable player becomes a core element of what we see as a successful driver for Speak moving forward. So we'll continue to work on that. And I'll just add, like, one of the things that we've seen has been this idea to automatically, for example, grab valuable content and then make it more accessible. So one of the mechanisms we're using is something like Google Trends to see rises in speeches that are now popular that people are searching for. We can put that content into Speak, do that analysis, transcribe it, make it more engaging and accessible, and then post it and actually see those searches lead to people finding content that is very engaging and then interactive for them. So I'll end on that piece there. The last thing that I wanted to talk about today, unless anyone else has anything else, is this Google Chrome extension, which is a very exciting piece for us here at Speak AI. I saw it somewhere the other day. Okay, so our first OKRs, one of the first OKRs that we ever did had a Google Chrome extension in it. And so that would have been like 2019, maybe the start. And here we are in 2021 and it comes to fruition. So like those are the timelines for things. Sometimes it maybe takes a little bit longer, but as you prioritize and things happen, these things that we know we always wanted to do get accomplished. And that's been a beautiful part about working with Speak AI here and doing this. I know that anything gets put into a Trello or gets into an OKR will eventually be accomplished. And I love that. So Vatsal, I mean, you've helped engineer a lot of the Google Chrome extension. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts right off the top. And of course, we had the wonderful contribution of Devarsh, who helped with this. So just any thoughts on the Google Chrome extension, and then maybe, for the last couple of minutes here, we can talk about why we built this and what the use cases are and what we actually see as the value for the people who are using the system.
Right. So we started the Chrome extension basically the last month, and we released the first version in around 10 to 15 days, I would say. That was a 2-week sprint, and we released the first version pretty raw, and give all the credits to Devers on the engineering side to build and quickly understand and digest the concept about that, and give the first raw working MVP model. And always the fundamental and the principle we follow on the engineering side is like, let's get things quickly into the market, or maybe the first version for the MVP. So even the team or the early beta user can test the application, and we can have more feedbacks. So we just released yesterday the final version 1.0.04 is released on the Chrome Web Store. So the couple of use cases, Tyler, you said a LinkedIn post and also an article about the use cases to find, so basically what Chrome extension do, that's a question. Is like why, and the second question is why do we need the Chrome extension? So first thing, what does it do is you can use into the 2 ways. Either you can right click on any website, select the text, and it will just import and automatically analyze on Speak text notes. And that is a beautiful notification where you can click and it will redirect you right into the Speak notes. So that's a one piece. And the second piece is like, if you want to analyze the whole blog, or if you want to analyze your competitor's blog, or if you want to just save the information for your learning. So it's just one click with the fetch entire page, and it will fetch the whole page as HTML and also the raw text to go through to display the page, and also find the raw insight behind the page. So those are the 2 things what Chrome extension do. And here is a quick, right? So right click on that. So Tyler is setting a screen sharing here, and he just went to the LinkedIn, right click, select a text, and here is all the insights ready to go. And you can see all the people name, the full sentiment. Cool. Ooh, 100%, perfect. And no negative words are mentioned in the full post. And that's, I think there are many algorithms LinkedIn also run to rank the post. So that is one of the concept I use. So for example, if I'm setting on LinkedIn, I go to the Speak notes, make sure there is no negative words mentioned, if not necessary, and make sure the sentiment is positive, and help a lot to even rank on the LinkedIn. I don't know if that match with the algorithms behind that engine, but sometimes technically it makes so much sense why one of your posts is trending. So it's like, Nihal, I got the notification for one of the posts is like, your post is trending, so react on this post, right? So there are many other reasons, and Tara, you can give more other insights.
Well, like interestingly enough, like, some of these things have, you can see the amount of happiness. So that's good. You can see the level of happiness. It's part of the focus on past, and then part of the focus on future. And again, like just the idea of just clicking and highlighting those things, and then also seeing names and seeing, past firm, like it really becomes, now this is a short amount of text. And so there's not a lot of, navigation that's actually happening here. But at the same time, you can see how much, this is like what still astounds me today, which is how much information is in language, how many insights are actually possible here, and what is actually coming. And I'll give you a prompt as a marketer, only, one puffery, which, which we've talked about. We'll see, Nihal, like in last, we had a couple of talks ago where we talked about who's the biggest user of puffery on the team. And there was a core agreement that it was me. I haven't heard it from you as much, but we'll see as the language emerges. But I mean that alone, just to I'll just give a little like insight is I'm planning to meet with someone. What I'll generally do is actually head to their LinkedIn profile, take a look at the summary. This is a way that someone has like self-described themselves. This is really important in their view and then how they actually want other people to view them. And to just be able to import that, get a quick snapshot, and then highlight some things, it can be a very, very valuable tool and something I'm excited to actually use. And you can see how quick that was. Always very nervous to do a live demo, especially as we're just deploying changes, but that was seamless as possible and excited for other people to have that experience. And the other part that we found is we share that out. We have some people who are going to be testing the Chrome extension, but it took a lot of what we've been doing and that was sometimes abstract and made it much more concrete for people of, wow, oh, I could analyze this. I could analyze a social media post. I could analyze a press release. I could analyze a business plan that comes to me. Like then all of a sudden the wheels start turning in people's head. And I just saw a lot more feedback and questions and engagement from that because there was like a chasm that was crossed with understanding of the product and what we're actually trying to do at Speak AI through this. So very excited about that. And I'll just add the top classic Tyler, one more thing. What we're very excited about from a marketing standpoint is that we actually get this into a Google Chrome Store extension directory. So it adds a whole new layer of discoverability to Speak. If people are trying to analyze text, if people like, we're going to have a whole new eyes on this, all new users who have come through this channel. And that part is what I'm actually almost most excited for. We're going to get to say hi to some new people and see how we can help them out.
Right. But even meanwhile, if anyone wants to, who's listening this podcast, it's like, if you want to try or join on the beta release, either you can send us an email through the Speak website, which is like, just accounts success@speakhere.co, or send a message to any one of us on LinkedIn or any other social media, and we'll add you into the beta release.
Beautiful. Any other thoughts, Nihal? Anything from your side as a marketer that you're like that you think of? Tim, Lauren, any thoughts on the Chrome extension or just the ability to analyze pages?
So, for instance, going back to our whole idea about seeing how our value proposition plays out, when compared to some of our peers. I tested out earlier in a couple, and it was pretty interesting to see how that can definitely play a role in our strategy to kind of obviously picking out keywords is one element, but also just looking at how, some brands tend to go with a more aggressive or, like there's a lot more negativity in how they frame, the competitors versus them, while there's others that are more neutral. And then there's others that are, paint both in a positive light, while trying to bring forward unique insights for each, right? And I thought that was pretty cool. It was very quick. I mean, because Vatsal actually just gave me access to it earlier today. And, obviously work in progress. So there's some things to fix, but it was cool to see that even when something didn't work, there was immediate feedback about, hey, like, sorry, this doesn't quite work right now, but, we're aware of it and we'll get a fix going as soon as possible, right? And I think from a user perspective, that's really important because people love feedback. People love to know that they're being heard. And I think it's cool that even just with this initial iteration, we're already thinking of that. So that's pretty cool.
Amazing. Okay. And there's going to be lots, I won't get too far ahead, but lots of iterations on this. Mm-hmm. And, I think we're going to learn, just like people are going to learn as they pull text in and analyze it, they're going to start see opportunities for building in, things into their default categories or actually add their own custom categories. For example, if we're, looking at different marketing software or different brands, like that can be really programmatically built in to provide more value on that analysis. Like you don't have access to some of these, future focus, past focus, or even emotions or things, but you start to build out your own personalized curation of how you're analyzing information. The system becomes more yours and then more valuable and produces insights quicker. So that part is also very exciting. I think we're going to learn a lot from what people are analyzing and what they aren't. And I don't know if I shared this, but I'll add this one part, which is one of the things that we found was in press releases that companies, when they were excited about investments that, for example, taking on new investors, they would write everything in number format. So it would say, $1 million with all numbers. But when they were embarrassed about something or they'd spent too much money, they would actually type it out. So instead of $1 million in number format, it would say $1 million typed out. And so what the idea for them was to do this was that numbers stick out at a page, especially for financial people. So as they scan a press release, they're looking for these numbers. And this was a way for them to possibly get through an embarrassing or detrimental announcement or press release without getting sort of caught. And now this system with Speak processes numbers and financial, it processes all as a number. So you could actually use Speak to sort of sniff out the written versions of numbers very quickly. And that's just like a simple, small little use case. But as that stuck out to me with the passion that the financial advisor that I was talking about, as he views press releases all day, thought how amazing that would be. And just one more part to add to that is if you could automatically pull in press releases all day, you could start to notify yourself for to continue with this example, events that multiple companies across multiple press releases had typed in numbers as sort of like an analysis tool for yourself. So there's one single analysis that we're enabling through the Google Chrome extension, but there's a bigger analysis system that we're building through Speak AI, which is multiple channel, multiple medium, multiple sources, and then synthesizing all that information and producing what you truly care about. So.
Perfect. Okay. I just wanted to add on for example, even if you're not a fan of the Chrome engine at this moment, we are also going to release about the Mozilla extension with the same version 1 capabilities. So you can do either on the Mozilla. And the last part is the same fundamental about what you talk about is the multi-source of the input informations. And it's like we talked about the Zapier before, but we have the same feature available on the Zapier too. So it's like, it would be great if you can share a screen at the a link at the end about the Zapier import text from any media. So even if you are setting on any source of media, there's like thousands of apps available on the Zapier, and you can just build your own Zap to import any text on the Speak Notes for the same analysis.
Love Zapier. Great system, and that's it. The audio, video, and text, which is something that we really care about specifically at Speak because it's such a core part of communication. So we're at 1 p.m. Any last thoughts before we wrap up? I guess our Easter weekend version of office hours here. Nihal, it's been great to have you. Tim, Lauren, any thoughts before we close this out? Okay.
I'm pretty excited to see what else comes from Chrome extension eventually. Just if we move past like text or into like video and images and whatever else there could be. I don't know, maybe like AR stuff.
Coming soon.
Yeah, coming very, very soon.
Something we're really looking forward to. We really want to create the future that doesn't exist now. And what we've done with this Chrome extension is just a small step, but it means a lot to us.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah. And I'll just confirm with you, we've built an extension for Chrome, but this also transfers to Firefox and
Firefox Mozilla is like, so Firefox is from Mozilla, so it's a Firefox browser.
Multiple browsers will be able to use it. We're not just restricting it to Chrome, which is awesome. So
but the goal is to get the MVP sort of a first version to get into the hands of the user. Yep. And once we have the more feedbacks, it is more about just duplicating the same engineering side, same fundamentals. So yeah, pretty excited about that.
Okay. Nihal, any last thoughts before we close this out? Thank you again for joining us. This is bold and ambitious of you for the first week, but we look forward to having you in many more of these, and I think you'll get into the flow and have a lot of fun in these conversations. I know we all look forward to this every week.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I guess happy Easter to everyone. Enjoy the long weekend.
Okay. Office, are we going to try? Can we can we get to 11 here just to close this out? Okay, one person. Okay, Tim's got 3, 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Office hours 11. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for all the support. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
See ya.